why don't we pay cash for it from the sales tax? That'd save us 25 to 26 million dollars in interest payments. So it's already in the budget. It's already been identified for the next 10 years. It's just paying cash for it instead of putting it on debt bonds. So that's how they got to that. Technology is great, right?
And it works. You're protecting me. Yes. We are good to go.
I'm J.B. Johnson, your District 5 representative.
Oh, you bet you're gonna hear from me.
I very much like.
We have that figured out. Okay. And you can just go, okay, okay, yeah. Oh, need to share the screen. Sorry. That's right. Okay. You're rocking. Okay, thank you, Teresa. Thank you for your patience. My name is Randy Timish. I live at 242 North Woodchuck Street. I'm here tonight to talk about the Sustainability Integration Board. And because we have some good news, believe it or not. I wanted to share that the Sustainability Integration Board has 10 micro grants available for $1,000 each. Our applications are open. It's through February the 12th. We only have 6 right now, so we would like to get more applications. Individuals or organizations or nonprofits all may apply. The funding of the projects will be required to provide the receipts for reimbursement and also submit a final report to the city staff. So if you know anybody who might qualify for this grant, might be interested, there's the QR code. We also have these great tumblers available for free for community gardens. You have to be a resident of the city of Wichita, one of the K-Stage community gardening, a school, university, a nonprofit, a faith-based organization, or a library. We also have free weatherization kits, and you can get those at the Atwater, Colvin, and Evergreen neighborhood resource centers. See, great free stuff, you guys. And here's the best part. The city of Wichita's got their rebate program back. And so all these items, you can get a rebate of anywhere from $50 to $100 for each. And you're limited to only 5 of them. but that's quite a bit. Your rebate comes back as a credit on your water bill. This year we have a new one. It's for grasses and shrubs. So you can replace your grass with a drought tolerant grass and receive a little bit money back to kind of offset the costs. And some certain shrubs also can be used that are drought tolerant, and you can get some money back for that. So you will get reimbursed up to the price of your receipt. You'll never get reimbursed. If you buy a $75 plant, you're not going to get paid $100. So basically, before you purchase anything, you really should go to the website. Here's some of the grasses. Go to the website and see what it says about the different items, because there is some limitations. You just can't buy anything. The program has $125,000. And that's it. So if people are interested in this, you need to make an application fairly quickly. And before I go any further, the Sustainability Integration Board is the best board in Wichita. I'm so glad to hear that. So now I'm going to change my hat a little bit, because I am a co-president of the Wichita League of Women Voters. And there's a lot going on in our city right now, and we're paying attention. This just came out that there was some items that were incorrect on the flyer that came out with the, let's see, it's advanced ballot applications. And even though those particular items were incorrect, like the time and when the ballot was supposed to be returned, the application is still good. You can still send in the application. I was seeing on Facebook, people weren't sure what to do with them. They were going to trash them, but it's still perfectly fine to send in an application. Everybody who is registered to vote can vote by mail. And you can, if you don't know where one of those applications are, all you need to do is Google advanced ballot application and City of Wichita, and you'll get you right there to the Secretary of State's site, and you can download it and send it in. And it's just very simple, like this. Wichita does have a lot of information on their website with why they're wanting to have this ballot. But always go to the Sedgwick County Election Office to find out what is right for voting. They're really friendly people. They'll talk to you when you call the phone. They don't put you on hold.
Right at 5 minutes, if you would mind.
Okay. You guys, our last election, we had 11.98% turnout. And the League of Women Voters really would like to have more than that at this next vote. And I would suggest that people take their kids down to vote. Let them see what they're doing, what you're doing, so they won't be scared of it. We're finding high school students don't want to vote because they are fearful for showing they don't know everything. So I decided if we got more than 20% voter turnout, I'll bring cookies next time. Okay.
Thank you for the information and update, Randy. Thank you very much. Any other individuals present tonight that would like to speak at this time? Okay, with that, I would seek a motion. No, there one more. Oh, sorry, come on up, sir. You get to the podium if you would please share your name and address.
First, I should clarify if I can speak. I live in Goddard, 15411 Hickory Circle. And I think that's, oh, well, that would be good. My name is Bob Nelson. Hickory Circle in Goddard. However, I did own a business in Wichita for 44 years. I own a building for a few more months. I own half of a building about 2 blocks from here, and I've paid property taxes on it. And I too went to the Advanced Learning Center for both meetings and heard the speakers there. And I too heard the projections from Wichita Forward. And I wasn't planning on speaking tonight either, but I think there's some things that might want to be clarified. At the first meeting at the Advanced Learning Center, it was an open forum and anybody could ask questions anytime they wanted to. At the second meeting, they had a speaker, the union chief for the Wichita Fire Department. They wanted to leave time for them, and so they asked not to take questions. And the union chief for the fire department here in Wichita explained how the capital budget has been stretched thin for many, many years. We've gone from an excellent fire department to response times that have shrunk because of lack of capital items, and people are in danger. And he was adamantly for the sales tax. So I think we should tell the whole story when we talk about those two meetings. Now, has Wichita Forward done a good job in rolling this out? I don't think so. I also noticed that every argument that I've heard at the city council and at those two meetings at the Advanced Learning Center and at the League of Women's debate against the sales tax has focused on process. Now, process is important, but I think you have to balance your consideration of process with a consideration of results. What is the most expensive way to buy capital equipment? It's to bond it out and borrow money for it. Cash is cheaper. Saving millions of dollars over 7 years makes a huge difference. I think you also have to look at your brothers and sisters. I don't know how many people in here are faith-based people, but you probably all consider yourself to be very moral people. 72 people died on the streets last year who were in homelessness. Up to 80% of working people who are still low income, working people who are low income are paying up more than 50% of their income on rent. Affordable, if you're paying attention to national politics, affordability is not just a crisis here, it's a crisis all around the country. This is not something that some group made up.
Sir, I have 3 minutes. We might wrap it up.
Okay, so I want you to think about results. I want you to think about your neighbors. I want you to understand that an investment does save money. And I want you to consider voting for results and not against process.
Thank you very much. Let it be known that our friends from Goddard or any suburb are always welcome. So thank you for being here.
I send all my money to what you have.
Okay, any additional individuals that would like to address the board this evening? Okay, with that, I would entertain a motion to receive and file the public agenda. For second. Second. Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. On to our board agenda. Item number 3, updates, issues, and reports from our council member, JD. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Keep it quick because you guys are not here to hear me speak. Probably Ron and Gary speak. So, council meeting, next couple of council meetings, we'll spend a lot of time on putting guardrails around the 1% sales tax if it does. Right now, we're at 37 pages of guardrails. So, which I think is way too many, but it's a lot of guardrails. So, we'll do that. See how the vote comes out. And then tonight, I really wanted to have Gary here and Ron here. I got to be part of the discussion about when West Tech and Wichita Water Partners meeting. It was a 3-hour meeting. I found it extremely interesting, and I thought that city council should know about it and people should know about it. So that's the reason for tonight is you will get to know what went right, what went wrong, what the solutions are, possible timetables, things like that. So with that, I'll just wrap it up and hopefully we'll get that word next.
Okay, thank you, JD. Any other updates or announcements from members of the board for District 5 before we move on?
did have one thing, it's not related. I know that was a perfect segue to that.
What?
I'm part of a group, a group that I'm adjacent to. They're called the Wichita River Walk Cleanup Crew. They go and clean up around the river down and in down the downtown area monthly. They do great things. So if you guys are ever interested in volunteering for that group, again, they go monthly. Since 2019, they've picked up over 2,750 bags of trash around Wichita, which is just, I think, fantastic that they're able to go out there and contribute. They are going to actually speak at February 10th council meeting, requesting a parking waiver. So since the paid parking has come in place, they've not been able to go to a few locations. And anecdotally, there's actually been news stories about the buildup of the trash in those locations. So I just ask that, that's heard out. I know there's only so much that we can do, but for everyone in this here today, I just wanted to invite everyone, if you're interested in being a part of like cleaning up Wichita and volunteering your time, they meet once a month on Saturdays, and I'd be happy to direct you to they organize on Facebook. So if you are a Facebook user, direct you to their page.
Also, Jennifer works for Garver. She is our rep for the water treatment plant. She's the city's rep to make sure everything is built like it's supposed to be built. So
Not the engineer.
she's not the engineer. We'll explain that.
Thank you, Jennifer. All right, we will turn our now to the Northwest Water Treatment Facility update. We have Ron Coker with Wichita Water Partners and Gary Jansen, our Director of Public Works and Utilities, to provide us this evening's update. Gary, Ron, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I'm good on that. Yeah, thank you. Opportunity to be here this evening. Gary Jansen, Director of Public Works and Utilities for the City of Wichita. We wanted to provide you an update of where we're at with our new water treatment plant, some of which Councilmember Johnson talked about already. I'm going to be brief, and then I'm going to turn it over to Ron Coker with Wichita Water Partners. What you'll see tonight, if you happen to see the City Council several weeks ago, is very similar to that same discussion we had with the City Council. At the time, we were talking about an extension of Garver's contract as necessary due to where we're at. So back in November, we halted performance testing. We were in that phase of the project due to some mechanical issues with the clarifiers. Ron will talk more about that. Councilmember Johnston mentioned that we had a workshop in December, brought everybody together to kind of look at the root cause. Again, Ron will talk more about that. We had three done of issues. Garver obviously has been alongside us all the way, looking at what caused the issues we currently have and what the path forward looks like. We do have a path forward. Absolutely confident of that. We're working through multiple aspects of that at this time. The plant is still the responsibility of Wichita Water Partners, which is a good thing for the city. It's a good thing that the contract was structured that way so that we will not take the facility over until it can be truly all completely proven out. Once the repairs are made, and they will be made, there's still some performance testing we need to finish, some things we've got to wrap up before the city will take responsibility. And it'll take us some time. Then through the course of that, we've got to get our operators to start running the plant. In the meantime, we've been very diligent. Wichita Water Partners has been, our staff, Garver has been a tremendous help as our owner's rep. We have been all working together collaboratively to make this work. Nobody wants to see these things happen. It's not expected. It's a large, complex project. Unfortunately, things like this can come up. Again, it happened at the right time prior to the city taking over the facility. But I'm going to let Ron take it from here. He's going to walk you through multiple aspects of where we've been and where we're going and kind of what the timeline looks like. Happy to answer any questions. I'll just mention one more thing before I step away, and I'll probably have a chance to come back up and help answer questions. My contact information is really easy to find. If anybody ever has questions, I would ask you to reach out. There's a lot of information out there. There's a lot of misinformation out there. We know where we're going with this. There's no hidden agendas here. There's nothing to hide. I am happy to share any information that we've got, what we're doing, how we're going to get there. So please feel free to reach out to me anytime you want. I'm always happy to answer questions and talk about where we've been. I'm going to let Ron have at it.
Nice. Thank you. Hi, everybody. Ron Coker. I'm the project executive with Wichita Water Partners. I also work for Burns and McDonnell Engineering. And then I have Dan Baker here as well. Dan's our startup project manager. And Dan is with Alvarisi, our partner on this project. Now, Councilman said the meeting with West Tech was 3 hours. That's true. And the meeting with the city council last week was 2 hours. So let's set some expectations on time. How much do you want to talk today?
20, 30 minutes.
20 minutes. Let's go for 20 minutes and we'll just move pretty quick. And if anybody has questions, we can stop and answer questions if that's okay. Am I just advancing with the arrows here? Okay. Well, thanks again. So here's a portion of your plant, your new Northwest Water Facility or Wichita Water Works plant. These are the clarifiers that you've heard all about. You probably never thought you would hear about a clarifier or a solids contact clarifier to the degree you have. I didn't think I would either, but that's just happens to be the case on this project. So this is a new plant. It's about 120 MGD or 120 million gallon per day plant. Peak capacity, you don't use that much water currently, so you won't be operating right at that threshold all the time. The city's done a great job in water conservation and really lowering that. This is the clarifiers are really the first process in your new plant. The plant mimics most of what your old plant does or your current plant does. The one change are these clarifiers, and it's a different way to pull solids out of the water. So in these big round basins, and these are big round basins, they're about 135 foot in diameter. You'll see a picture here in a minute of a person inside it, and the person's rather small when you get in these basins. You're adding chemicals, you're adding lime. This is the first step in the process where you're pulling solids out of the water. And then the water that comes out of these clarifiers goes on to your filters for filtration and then on for disinfection before it goes out to the system. So lots of things going on, but I just wanted to make sure that you understood what we were talking about when we got into this. For the city council, we spent a lot of time talking about cost, and there was a lot of questions related to, in particular, change order 4. I don't think we need to go through a lot of that tonight, but just so you know, the capital budget for the project was originally about $524 million of capital. That included $10 million for a new substation. So let's say it was 514 for the capital on the plant. And right now we are at 509,158,072. So you're still about $6 million under, or $5 million under your capital budget. Cost will change a little bit as we go forward, but you're probably not looking at a lot of cost change on this project at this point. This is a design build project. So that means that our team both designed and are responsible for both the design and the construction of the project. The advantage to the city in what's called a progressive design build is that there's just one contracting entity. That's very advantageous when you have situations like the ones we're going to talk about tonight. But the other advantage is you can move faster. And what happened, what seems like forever ago now, was when the initial design was completed and the pricing was done, the city when they signed a contract with Wichita Water Partners, then was able to go ahead and finance the project and get very low interest rates, historically low interest rates, which saved the city, according to EPA, $70+ million just on financing that EPA gave along compared to normal financing. So there was an advantage to move fast. This delivery method moved fast, and then the construction of the plant's been completed for quite some time now, and we're just trying to work our way through the operations, the startup, the testing, the performance testing, and acceptance. So that's what we'll talk about today. Councilman, you want to go through change order? Just move on to the issues related to the.
Let's just move on.
Okay, let's go forward here. Okay, so we did a ribbon cutting. You guys might have seen that. It was a long time ago now. It was 2024, in the fall of 2024, and we always celebrated this beautiful new facility. And it is a beautiful facility if you're in the business of building water plants as part of it. But we haven't been able to turn that project over to the city. So let's talk about why that occurred. The project originally, it's got quite an extensive testing program, probably the most extensive on a project that we've ever completed. That's in part because the city wanted that kind of testing. They wanted to know what they were getting before they accepted the plant. So there's several different kinds of performance tests that we operate through. Jen's heavily involved in that process as well. So you might remember as well, and it was mentioned earlier that the city was in a drought in 2024. So when water was supposed to be provided to start testing, the city didn't have water to provide. So that delayed the project. Essentially, we started testing in November of 2024. Originally, the plant was anticipated being handed over in September of 2024, right? So we started testing. We ran testing through 24 from November 24 to May of 25. And then we had an issue with these same clarifiers, and I'll talk about that. That's the gearbox modifications. We fixed that. We restarted testing. We went all the way back through testing again. We were about 3 weeks from handing this plant over to the city. I can remember vividly because I was on my way to Wichita that day when we had a clarifier failure, a structural issue, and I'll talk about that, which said it didn't cause us to shut the plant down and relook at it again. So we'll have to fix that structural issue, start the plant back up. We've got some testing to finish, and then we'll hand over to the city, and the city will start their training and their testing. But we've been treating water for a long time, and you've been drinking some of that water for some period of time as well. So there's while you may drive past it and say, "Gosh, I'm not sure if that's running or not," it's been running for quite a while and successfully treating water for quite a while. I'll give you some of that information as well. So just real quick, here's what a PTA is. We're going to talk a lot about PTAs. It's just a performance test, right? And there's 8 of them. Essentially, this plant treats 3 water sources, if you want to think of it that way. It treats Cheney water, it treats Equisbed water, and it treats a blend of both. That's pretty unusual for one water treatment plant to have that breadth of treatment. The reason the city wanted that breadth of treatment is because you've invested a lot of money in diversifying your water supply to make the city more drought tolerant. So you wanted that flexibility to really be able to use your water supply the best you could. And that's what this plant was intended to do. 95+% of the time, you'll probably run on the same blended water that you run on today. But when you need to, you'll have that flexibility to move one direction or the other with this plant. So here's what we do. We transition to a water source. We build solids in the clarifiers. I'm not going to get into clarifiers and how they work too much. But you have to have solids in there to create collisions, which causes the solids to get bigger and then they fall out of suspension, right? You would do that by adding different chemicals. When we start a PTA, it's a defined period, so they're either 2 days or 3 days, and we're taking samples every day of testing. So 48 samples taking each day. Some of those tests come back in 2 or 3 weeks. So we have to run lines, and then we see how we did in 2 or 3 weeks times. So when we started the project up, we had some challenges with the process, really. To be frank and open, and it was taking longer to stabilize. We had some raw water challenges. We had some clarifier performance that we just didn't understand. It wasn't where it should have been. And through that process, we became aware that West Tech had supplied us with a gearbox that was undersized. So that's not going to make any sense. I'll show you. There's the gearbox motor for these clarifiers. So think of a gearbox as a 10-seat bicycle. Right, the gears on a 10-seat bicycle, you have your first gear that, if I remember 10 feet correctly, was really easy to pedal, but you didn't go very fast. And then 10th gear was really hard to pedal, but boy, you really took off and ran. Right, these are big clarifiers, and while the mixing, it doesn't very right, the very slowly. You're churning a lot of water. But the speed with which you do it, or the mixing energy that you put in that basin, makes a difference in how those solids settle out. And the problem was this gearbox, the original gearbox, wasn't sized to get enough mixing energy in these clarifiers, so it had to be replaced. That's what we did. That's, I think, a picture of the new one, Dan, if I remember right. Is that correct? So once we had the right gearbox, then we had the mixing energy we need, and we restarted testing again. So this was June 25. One of the city's requests was there was a lot of pressure not to waste water through this testing process. So we focused a lot on how to send test water for final treatment or final polishing to the East City's current East plant. That began in August. So this plant was treating water completely. And then it would go through the East plant for polishing and final disinfection. So you've been drinking water from this plant off and on since last August. No complaint on the taste, I assume? All right, that's good. That's sign of a good water plant, right? That you didn't know you were drinking water from the new water plant as part of it. And it was met all drinking water regulations, and it was final treated in the city's existing plant. So there was nothing that done. It was just considered another raw water source for the city at that point in time. We went through all 8 PTAs, all 8 met KDHE drinking water criteria. The city's project criteria are about 3 times more stringent than what KDHE requires for drinking water. So think of it as we have 1 level to meet, and then we got to get way down to meet the city's project criteria on a lot of things. Through this process, we had agreed that we were going to rerun 3 PTAs. They were all surface water PTAs, so there was water coming that was 100% Cheney water. PTAs 3 and 4 had 11 samples that were non-compliant. And then PTA 7 had 1 sample non-compliant, but it was a 3 clarifier test, and 1 of the clarifiers failed in the middle of it. So we had to switch. We still got the testing back. We passed on all but 1 sample, but we'd already agreed to rerun that test. So I don't know if that sounds like a lot or sounds like a little, but if you just look at the PTAs, there were over 1,000 samples taken in the 8 PTAs that we ran, and all of them met drinking water standard. All but 12 of them met project standard as part of it. So the plant makes great water, and has done so for a long time. Really, the challenge now is making sure that the plant can make great water over the duration, right? That you don't continue to have problems with these clarifiers that upset the plant or upset the city's ability to treat water. So this is what we discovered in November. We had some indication that there was a structural issue. You could see a little bit of it. Remember, these were full of water, so they're really hard to see anything in. But we shut them down and drained them. So there's the picture. You can see the person in the bottom of that picture. And you're not looking at the full clarifier. This is just the mixing chamber. So the clarifier is much bigger and wider than what you see in this picture. So they're big. They are big pieces of equipment. The beam that you see with that blue arrow is meant to attach to this upper draft tube. I'm just going to point on both screens so you can see it. This is the upper draft tube, or what's called the upper draft tube, the mixer, the upper draft tube, and the lower draft tube. The purpose of the upper draft tube is to do nothing but funnel water from the lower draft tube to the mixer. And it was held in place so that it didn't move. The mixer moves one direction, the lower draft tube moves the other direction, the center section stays still. So these beams and those cables that you see attached to it are what held it still. So what happened? Well, there's 2 blue arrows in that big picture. There was a clearance issue between that beam and the mixer. Remember, the mixer's turning. That beam is holding that upper draft tube still. So you were getting some contact between that mixer and that beam, causing it to twist, and ultimately caused that beam to fail, right? Now, when you think about this, and I tell you that there was no reason for that upper draft tube to stay still, you'd probably say, well, then why on earth were we trying to hold it still? And that's a great question, right? The reason is often the water comes into a clarifier from the side, and it comes into that upper draft tube. So they want it still so that the pipe can connect to it. In your clarifiers, the water comes in from the bottom, where that bottom blue arrow is there. So there's absolutely no reason to hold that upper draft tube still. So I'm telling you that so that you understand where we're going with the fix, right? So we were having some clearance issues that was twisting, and then there was a secondary problem in West Tech. And this is where some of the misinformation that I think has kind of gotten out there. West Tech designed this piece of equipment correctly, but when they manufactured it, they didn't put a stiffening ring on the bottom of it per the design. So if you want to think, an example that they gave the councilman In the meeting, if you think about a 5 gallon bucket, it's hard to push the top of a 5 gallon bucket. It's really stiff. But if you cut the top off and then just push the center of the bucket in, it's really flexible. So that's what was going on in the bottom of this draft tube. It was too flexible. And when you started getting interference, it started moving in and out as part of it, and then ultimately caused that failure to occur. So the fix is really to do two things. One, we're going to make West Tech rebuild the upper draft tube for these clarifiers. That's what you see in these sections. And you see that it's going to be braced from the inside, not the outside. So it will actually turn. It will turn just like the lower draft tube. You don't have to hold it still. So there won't be any structure there that has to do that and has a chance of failing again. We'll inspect it. We've inspected as Gary said, we've had several people do inspections. The one area we haven't been able to inspect is what was inside that big tube. So we'll do that as soon as we get those upper draft tubes removed. We'll install a new upper draft tube. We'll connect it to the center. We've got a little bit of other work to do in those clarifiers to make sure that they're good to go forward, including some coating work, and then we'll start back up. Any questions on that piece of it before I get to the go forward? I know that was super fast. That was probably a 10-minute, not a 20-minute. Yes, sir.
West Tech, I take it, is not a company or corporation.
West Tech is based out of Salt Lake City. They're an old company. We talked about this in the council meeting. I think the mayor looked it up, and they were formed in the 1970s, if I remember right. Yes, they're an industry. They're well known in the industry, and they do a lot of clarifiers in the industry as well.
I'm having trouble why we accepted a design where water's coming, they designed it for water coming in from the side, not from the bottom. Did they send somebody up here to see what we were doing specifically?
They
tested like that? What happened?
Well, it's kind of industry standard for it to be like that. And it was kind of industry standard design because a lot of times the water flows in from the side. I even think in the spec from our design, HDR was the design engineer on this individual piece. It talked about that piece staying stable as part of it. It didn't have to. It could have been varied. But the thing about this, and this is really hard, I think it's hard for everybody to understand, right? These were installed, they were checked, these were started up, they ran for about 6 months. When we shut the clarifier down to replace the gearboxes, we did those fixes. It was checked again by West Tech. It was checked again by West Tech, and then we started back up. None of this was apparent through that process, that they had missed the stiffening ring and that they had a clearance issue on that beam. So it's super, for one, that's super frustrating for everybody involved that it's missed, but it wasn't as much about them being down here to see that they didn't need to rotate it. They had the design, they knew what it was. From West Tech's perspective, I think it's more about that's the way they do the majority of their clarifiers, and they did this the same way.
But we do ours different.
Well, in this case, when the original design was contemplated, we didn't know where the water was going to come in, whether it was going to come in the side or come in the bottom. So the spec was that you based it like most of them normally are.
And that brings up the question, why didn't we figure that out ahead of the design?
Well, it was figured out before the design was complete, but when they started the process, it was still in development, right? That's one of the challenges you have in design build. You're moving fast as part of this, and you're deciding what that design is going to look like, and you're pricing that design for that design as part of it. So it's to some degree, it's neither here nor there. Had they provided the right clearance and put the stiffening ring on there, we would not be talking about clarifiers today, because there would have been no reason for it to fail.
Then why didn't they?
As I remember in that 3-hour meeting, the guy designed it in 3D. Then when it went to construction documents, the guy pulled all the information over in 2D, and those two things did not come over.
Yeah, when it went to the manufacturing, the
manufacturing clarifier, so it just screwed up.
Yeah. And West Tech admitted that. They
did.
admitted they made the mistake.
And then my other question that just came up, I didn't know about, was the gearbox.
Yeah.
Didn't it have a set of specs on it? Why did they install something smaller than what we need?
Yeah, same thing. It was designed, I think, correctly. They just ordered the wrong size gearbox and delivered it to the site. There's really no way to check that gearbox when it shows up on it. Until we couldn't get the mixing speed that we needed. That's how we found out that there was an issue in that gearbox as well. That's another issue that West Tech has freely admitted they had an issue with in that meeting.
And they are replacing them at their cost, not ours, correct?
That's right.
Appreciate that you're here. Just want to get some other voices in the room. We'll come back to you if you have some other advice. Let's hand.
Yes.
There's a question online from Jonathan Winkler. How confident can we be that the clarifier walls won't leak over time? It has been said that concrete was made with less fly ash than specified.
Yeah, so that's a different issue. Harry jumped up and talked about that issue last time. Do you want to talk about that?
I wanted to notice that too. When I talked about misinformation, that's probably one of the biggest ones, and I hope one of these days that stops. So there was a discussion that got out there that there were some issues with the concrete mix design for the clarifier walls. Information is incorrect. It's unfounded. There was a revision to the concrete mix design itself, but that was approved. We've got all the test results that show that all of the concrete met industry standard and required specifications. It is a non-issue. So the clarifier walls, there's a few cracks in the walls. It's not unexpected. We've got cracks in different places in the structural concrete throughout the facility. We have marked those as keeping an eye on them. I always tell the story. Generally, concrete's going to crack when we build new bridges. The day we pull the forms, there's cracks in the concrete in different places. It's unavoidable. If we can ever figure out a way for that to change, we're all going to get really rich off of it. But that doesn't mean that there's a structural problem. There was no issue with the mix design. There was no issue because of missing. So that part I'm confident with. I talked to the city council about that, and I think we're moving on from that.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So, you identified, is it just one clarifier that had the structural problem?
Two had problems, but you could see in all six evidence that they were having the issue.
Change, yeah. Got new gearbox.
All six got new gearboxes. Yeah, that's one of the things we talked about with the city council. Had this plant been up and operating, you probably wouldn't have fixed it like we're fixing it. You wouldn't have had the luxury just to shut it down, fix all six, start back up. You would have done a temporary repair. You would have kept going and you would have fixed one at a time as you went. Because we hadn't yet handed it over to the city. And I think out of an abundance of caution from the city's perspective and our perspective, it was easier to shut down, do a full inspection, get third parties in to look at it as well, make sure we understood what was happening, and then replace all of that.
Yes, sir.
Are we the first city to have this kind of plant?
You're not. This is not new technology.
So why have we gone through these kind of
Right,
problems?
I had two issues with the same bird bars. I don't have an answer to that question. I wish I did. It's not new technology. It's not something we expected. Or I wouldn't have stood up in September of 2024 and said, "Oh, we're so excited to give you a wait here in a few months."
So they haven't had these other cities have not had these problems.
Yeah, not that we've identified. Yeah, not that we've identified. In fact, West Tech, I believe, in their meeting said this was the first time they had had this happen as well, if I remember correctly.
So,
yeah.
second round.
So West Tech seemed to have two pretty big failures here in inspecting the product to the engineering. They're not checking it to the engineering design. Rosie Loomis made it through. Did they supply their components that are critical to this?
Yeah, well, that was great. That's a great question. The city asked that same question as part of this as well did we did as well. As part of it, and one thing that we asked West Tech to do, and part of the reason we had three different third parties looking at this, is we asked West Tech to go back through their design in total, to not just look at the failure and repair, but to essentially go through the design as if they were starting from scratch and do it with a different team and make sure that they don't have other issues. And that is certainly some of the other issues. They're not major issues, I would say. But it did surface another couple of issues, which we're gonna have them fix as part of this process as well.
It certainly points to a big problem in their quality management.
It does, and it's, I think for the biggest challenge overall in a water plant is you want a lot of confidence in your water plant, and it doesn't give you a good confident feeling when you have the same piece of equipment have issued twice during startup as part of it. And it's one of the reasons the city wanted the warranty period on these same pieces of equipment again. So, right, we'll have a new warranty attached to it, and I'm sure there's going to be lots of inspections done at different times as we go forward to make sure we're not seeing any other indications happening.
See, is West Tech covering the cost of the incorrect materials, and can you respond to the liquidated damages reported?
Yes, West Tech is paying for the cost of the repairs to the clarifiers, and the liquidated damages, that was a bit of incorrect information as well. The liquidated damages were part of the contract through substantial completion. And once you achieve substantial completion, liquidated damages go away. So if you don't know, liquidated damages in basic terms is a schedule of cost that says every day you miss the deadline, you owe so much, right? And that series of costs, I think it was across a year, if I remember right. What happened, and I think where that became confusing was when the city didn't have test water in the summer of 2024, late spring, summer of 2024, one of the changes that was made in change order 4 was to take the testing out of before substantial completion and put it before final completion. That's not unusual. Substantial completion is usually driven to try and or put in place to try and drive the contractor to make sure construction is complete. Not necessarily something like testing where you don't, as a contractor, have control over a lot of the testing components. But when that happened, the substantial completion was achieved on time, so there were no liquidated damages on the contract. I think part of the confusing piece was, oh my gosh, did the city give up their ability to recollect costs with? The answer to that is no. There's other provisions in the contract that lets the city do that. We had already been in claim negotiations with the city last fall, and at that time, I can tell you we were already above the liquidated damages schedule in what we were looking at as a resolution. So that really just doesn't play into the solution or the final scenario here.
It's a case where the paper gave it half the story, not all the story. Gary and his team were very wise in not taking liquidated damages. Would have been 1.8 to 2.7 million dollars. I think now, as Ron said, it will be far in excess of that.
Happy to move back to that if anybody wants to do that. I've told Gary that on multiple occasions.
I got a question.
One quick question. So this West Tech, they supply the pumps and things like that.
No.
Have to pump the water into the system.
Now, well, the mixer is kind of like a big pump, but the pump you're talking about. No, West Tech only provided this equipment that is this equipment. West Tech didn't do the base and walls. West Tech didn't install this equipment. They provided this equipment, and that's really the only thing that I'm aware of. Did they do other things stand on the plant?
Big aerators that have had a plant, which are just, you run water through it and you strip it in CO2 on the water. It's a very, it's very stationary. It doesn't have.
Not all mechanical components.
Yeah, and that's something we've asked our, we work with our, and it's city and West Tech City equipment as well. Mixture.
I'm trying. Yeah.
Yes, in the red.
When are you projecting that the plant will be done?
Great question.
Not till 2027.
Yeah, so great question. This is the last slide in my presentation. So here's the schedule going forward. We've got a repair schedule.
We've been sharing.
Okay, we've been sharing it with Garber. We've been sharing, I was gonna just say it for you. We've been sharing that repair schedule with Garber. So if we look at some of the big stuff here, we're gonna do, the plan here currently is to do some temporary repairs on one clarifier. So what that means is We're gonna put a fix in that mimics the fix that was proposed, the final fix that's proposed, but we're gonna do it on a temporary basis and restart that clarifier and restart the plant. So that we're producing water again. As part of it, and the hope is that in that 2 months or so before we get to start of repairs, let's just say April timeframe, that the city has an opportunity to start running the plant and getting used to running the plant, right? They've got to train on it at some point. The thought was, here's a great 2 months for you guys to train on it. And then we'll start repairs around April. I've got April, May, June right now. We're planning on doing clarifiers in batches of 2. That may change just a little bit as it comes forward. Or we get closer, we'll probably resume PTA testing when the first 2 are complete, if the city allows that. That's about May. So here's the final completion to be determined. And the reason I say that is the city in the end has to be part of the say-so in what's required before they will accept the plant. And we owe them information related to that, just to say, are we only going to do 3 PTAs, or do we need to do all 8 PTAs again as part of it? Our position is that in the end, the best plant is to run the plant and get used to running the plant, because it'll be the city's operators that run this plant successfully over decades. As part of we can get that, I think the better off the city's going to be. But rightly so, the city doesn't want to accept the plant until they're sure that everything's been done right. So we'll figure that out. Our hope is that it'll be sometime in the summer when the city takes that over. But hey, we've missed 2 deadlines so far. So I don't think we want to get everybody's expectations that that's going to be June and then not deliver again. And I think that's what the city has done, is to say you should not expect this until later in the year. And then if we beat it, that's right.
Gary, thank you very much. That takes us to about 30 minutes on that item. I want to bring discussion back to the board and see if there are any questions, comments, or feedback from the district supervisor. Seeing none, sorry, I don't want to miss your question. Did you have one more?
How long have they planned to leave the old plant open? They're gonna be covered.
That's probably your question. Thank you all. So we'll that's yet to be determined. We're going to keep the old plant running until the point in time that we feel absolute confident that we're ready to go to the system with the new plant and shut the old one down. There will be a period of time when Ron talked before. I've got some staff, and Wichita Water Partners was a part of this too, that do some pretty amazing things and figured out a way to take treated water from the new plant through the old plant to polish it off, like Ron talked about, and send it to the system. There will be a transition period of time where we'll probably go to that. And then once we feel very confident what the new plant is doing by itself, we'll make that conversion and we'll shut the old plant down. I wish I could give you a date right now or a time frame, but I don't know. We're going to try to minimize that as much as we can from a resource perspective, but we want to be absolutely confident before we do that.
Sir, you get the last question.
Yeah, what will happen to the old plant and its properties once it's decommissioned?
So the city council has chosen to, based on some options we evaluated and looked at, to convert the old plant to emergency use. We are one of the few municipalities our size in the country that has only 1 water treatment facility. Even with this brand new plant and the great things that it's going to do, you never know what can happen, right? Whether it's something internally, whether it's a natural disaster. Our former city manager, when he was in Des Moines, Iowa, their plant was flooded and they were without potable water for an entire month. You can imagine what that would do to a community our size. So as soon as that plant goes offline, we have got a team on board. We're going to start working to convert that to emergency use so we can bring the plant online in 24 to 48 hours. If something catastrophic were to happen to this new plant, I think it's very wise. It'll provide us protection for the future. And we're also looking at ways to potentially use that for water reuse in the future at the same time. So we're ready to move forward once this new plant's online.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you very much.
Thank you for letting us be here tonight.
Of course, happy to do it. Thank you for your questions and your engagement this evening. We're going to move on. We have some additional business to tend to this evening. We're not going to proceed. Could not be here this evening. Go ahead.
Do you feel better about the water treatment plant now than you did before? Or more worried?
I. In a little, okay, for the new water treatment plant, I feel better. All right, he's explained a lot of stuff that hasn't been there. I still have concerns with our old water treatment plant, because if we send the same company down there to mothball it, which I like the idea of, I said last month at one, I love that idea. Are they gonna screw that up again?
It won't be them doing it.
You're telling me it won't be them?
No.
It's not them. The company West Tech that supplied the clarifier pieces, will not be involved.
Because I still have a problem with West Tech not putting in the correct size gearbox of all the things. And then not sending somebody up for the underneath, coming in underneath as opposed to side. I have a real problem. We chose the wrong company to do it, I think.
Yep.
But it's too late. We have to live with what we've got.
Thank you, sir. Okay. All right, normally our first staff report would be from the Wichita Police Department. Officer Curie could not join us tonight. She did submit a written report that will be included in entirety in the meeting minutes. Thank you, Teresa. So that will take us to Fire Department report, and I believe we have Battalion Chief Ritter this evening.
Good evening. Like I said, my name is Pete Ritter. I'm the battalion chief out west there. I've been on the west side for approximately 5 years. I did go downtown for about the last 4 or 5 months, but just to fill a spot that was open down there. Now I'm back out west. So came back out January 1. In the meantime, the February DAB report that covers the end of December to the end of January. We only had one incident in DAB 5 as far as a fire response from the FIU units. It was on the eastern side of the district. It was started out as a vehicle fire in an apartment parking lot, kind of did some spread to the apartment building a little bit as an exposure. That's the only real fire report we had in DAB 5, which is good. Just a single incident. Overall, in that month, FIU, our investigators, they responded to 12 fire scenes that required their investigation across the city here. DAB 4, which is just to the south of us, they are getting a new station that should break ground this month. So we'll be getting Station 23, which will incredibly help our response times even into District 5. So really excited to get that one taken, undergoing and get it built. The fire department, we had 2 members from the west side out here that served the District 5 area. 2 members retired. They both had 30 and 31 years of service. So we lost 2 veterans out here. But that being said, when people retire, we bring in new people. We just graduated a new recruit class. They hit the floor here about 3 weeks ago. So we got some young guys out that are replacing those old guys. And as far as the district, nothing really major to speak about other than what I talked about. The American Red Cross blood drive ended this month, and WFD and Sedgwick County Fire won it for the 7th year in a row. So something to be proud of. We want to thank the citizens for the support, and it's it's kind of more fun to say when there's WPD standing behind me, but they're not here. So I just left DAB 4, and there's a couple officers. They kind of had some things to say. With that being said, do you have any questions from the board or
any questions? Any from our audience?
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
That takes us to our public library report. I'd like to welcome Tracy Partridge.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tracy Partridge, the manager of the Westlake Branch Library. As always, it's a thrill to be here, especially because it's at the Westlake Branch. So the first thing that I wanted to mention is tomorrow we actually are starting or launching a memory lab at our genealogy local history section at our advanced learning library. If you have things that you need to digitize, VHS tapes, audio cassettes, things like that, they will actually have technology in order for you to be able to do that. To be able to use it, you do need a Wichita Public Library card in good standing, and you can actually reserve a time for up to 3 hours to work on your projects. Another thing that I want to mention is that here at the Westlink branch, we're going to be doing a World of Wine program. That is actually this Thursday at 6:30 to 7:30. Guy Bauer, who's the host producer of The Good Life, is actually going to be doing that program. So we're incredibly excited about it. There will be no drinking of wine, but there will be lots of learning about wine so that then you can go and drink wine. Okay, another thing that I want to mention is we have the Lunar New Year celebration. That's at our Advanced Learning Library on Sunday, February 15th at 2. That program is for all ages, and it is the opportunity to learn. The Wichita Asian Association is going to be talking about annual traditions, and then East High's Lion Dance Club is going to be there, so that'll be a lot of fun. Shockingly, another thing that I want to mention is Pokemon Club. It's the 30th anniversary. That is so like crazy to think that that's been around for 30 years, but it has. And the American Library Association and the Pokemon Company are partnering to actually start Pokemon clubs at libraries around the nation. And the Advanced Learning Library is going to have one of those Pokemon clubs. They will actually be hosting a Pokemon Day celebration on Saturday, February 28th from 1:30 to 3:30. So this would be an opportunity for people who already love Pokemon to really enjoy it. But then if you don't love it, but you want to see what all the hype is about, how it has existed for 30 years, this is a good opportunity for you to do that. And as always, library programs are free, so yay. I did also want to mention that on Sunday, February 22nd, again at the Westlink branch, we're doing an old time radio program called The Case of the Careless Victim. And I think it's incredibly exciting because Wichita Community Theater is actually doing it. So it should be a lot of fun. And it is actually based on a radio play that Agatha Christie actually wrote and that was first produced on February 22nd, 1945. So I thought that's really cool. And then we are getting ready to have our Academy Award shorts. We have been doing that for 40 years. So this is very exciting. This is happening in March. Here at the Westlink location on March 14th, we will do the live action and animated, but we will have screenings throughout our library system the week leading up to the Academy Awards. And on, let's see, March 7th, Saturday, March 7th, they're going to be doing all 15 nominated short films, not just the animated and live action like we will do here at Westlink. Final thing that I want to mention is that the Wichita Public Library is going mostly cashless. Basically what that means is that we have been working for a while to actually eliminate fees. So we don't charge overdue fees, we don't charge hold fees, we don't charge fees if you don't pick up your holds. These are things that we have had, but we have gotten rid of because we want to make sure that everyone has access to our resources. And fees can be a huge barrier. Because we have gotten rid of so many things, we don't take very much money anymore. And for that reason, we won't have cash drawers at our service desk. We won't have credit card readers at our service desk. If you, by chance, which is incredibly rare, need to pay something, we will have self-check machines where you can do it. And then also another self-service point that you can do it. Does anybody have any questions whatsoever? A question? Fax machine. Oh, I just wanted to mention that. We don't charge for faxing anymore. Yeah, that happened actually at the beginning of this year. So if you do need to fax and people do actually still need to fax, we don't charge anymore. So that's really cool because that can get really expensive. Yeah. Okay, any other questions? Okay, well, thank you. And I hope to see you at the World of Wine, Old Time Radio, and when we do our Academy Award shorts.
Thank you very much, Tracy. Wine to Pokemon, never a dull day. Okay, Mr. Ferris here, that brings us to you for our Parks and Rec update to you.
Don't know what I've got to do to get ahead on the schedule ahead of Tracy, but I'm not nearly as chipper as she is. But it is dinner time, so I've taken my 27 pages of notes and reduce that down to a page. So the Proctor Wetlands Playground ribbon cutting was held earlier today. This interpretive playground enhances the Proctor Wetland experience by blending outdoor play with environmental education, offering families and children a hands-on way to explore and learn about wetland ecosystems. It is a really cool playground. It's not real huge. It's got a great shelter there. If you haven't enjoyed the boardwalks that have been constructed, I highly recommend it. When it's warm, I don't recommend it so much when it's as cold as it was this morning. But hey, we were all troopers. The 2026 city crew member registration is open. If you're looking for something, join the city crew. The mascots, Barry the Bison, Sergeant Justice, Briggs, and Webster are looking forward to seeing you at events that only city crew members get to be invited to. To register for this kids club, you must be between the ages of 2 and 12, which I don't see anyone fitting that demographic here. So if you haven't yet, you should download the Wichita Park and Recreation app onto your smartphone. Your next adventure is in your pocket. Find a new hobby, become a swimming pool member, get news and push notifications, so much more. Wichita Park and Recreation app is free to download. The features include seamlessly register for any of the classes in the easily manage your household account, access tickets to Watson Park or swimming pools. It's your member ID for the swimming pools. You can view league standings and schedules, receive updates on events, view employment opportunities. Hello. And you can also sign up to be a volunteer. So visit wichita.gov, click on Park and Recreation for more information. Are there any questions before we adjourn for dinner?
Gary's hangry. Any questions?
You're not wrong.
Okay, see you. Thank you.
All right, thank you all.
All right, before we move on to new business, can I entertain a motion to receive and file this evening's staff reports? So all in favor, say aye. All opposed, say sign. Motion passed. Okay, we have one item on our new business tonight. Brad from the planning department to bring us up to speed on an application to amend the conditional use permit roughly around 37th and Ridge. Over to you.
I'm gonna make it smaller.
No,
Is that good?
Yeah, you can.
Okay, all right, you're just going up and down.
All right, great, thank you. Yes, Brad Etherly, MAPD. We are here to discuss case CUP 2025-00042. For this case, the applicant is requesting two items, an amendment to the Northridge Plaza CUP, which is DP 250, to permit an off-site billboard sign on parcel 8, and to reduce the front yard setback in the northeast corner of parcel 8 from 35 feet to 0 feet. And so what we're looking at is this is parcel 8, and so they're looking at reducing this little section of the corner to about 0 feet so that they can put in a billboard. The subject CUP is generally located at West 37th Street North and Northridge Road. It's a 1.79 acre site that is zoned LC, and of course it's in DP 250. It is a strip mall. The applicant proposes to relocate a billboard that is on the northeast corner of North Ridge Road and West 37th Street North, which is approximately 340 feet straight across as the crow flies. The current location of the billboard is not within the subject CUP, so allowing a billboard within the current CUP would not prohibit a billboard at the location of the current sign. So just to stop and pause for a second, this is dealing with sign code, which can be kind of confusing. And then on top of that, we're dealing with billboard sign code, which can be even more confusing. And so I actually learned a lot on this case because we don't get a whole lot of billboard cases. So I'm going to kind of pause at various points and kind of try to explain it a little bit further with kind of visual help with the maps and stuff. So
just bear with me. And then if you have any questions, I don't even really care if you kind of pop your hand up in the middle of my presentation. It's not going to offend me in any way, shape, or form. So please do that. So the current governing language of the CUP does not permit offsite signs, which a billboard is considered one. The proposed billboard sign is intended to provide advertisements and messages toward both directions of travel along the roadway. The sign code governs the placement and development standards for offsite billboard in the LC district. Offsite billboard signs are permitted by right in the LC district, provided that they follow the criteria that are listed in the staff report. So although the parcels within the CUP DP 250 to the north of the subject site are zoned LC, the CUP language for those parcels do not permit offsite billboard signs. Therefore, the proposed billboard would not be permitted by sign code. However, a CUP can override the sign code and permit a billboard even if the required linear frontage does not adhere to the code. So what we're talking about is, and I'm going to scroll down to the aerial just to kind of have a better look at what we're dealing with. So typically, when you have LC zone properties, you can have one billboard per every 330 linear feet, as long as they are allowed to have billboards, meaning typically just a regular LC zone property would. But whenever they're in a CUP, if the LC property does not have, so you can see all this is zoned LC up here, so it shouldn't be a big deal, except for that all of these are in the same CUP and they do not allow billboards on those properties. And so in typical sign code fashion, it would not be allowed. However, the CUP can override the sign code. It's kind of convoluted. So essentially, if the request is approved, then they can put a billboard sign in this corner based off the CUP language. A lot to say, usually it wouldn't be allowed, but the CUP, if approved, can allow it. So, so let me get back to the report now. The sign code also prohibits the erection of off-site billboard signs within 330 feet of another off-site sign facing the same direction of travel along the same street. The approximate linear distance of the proposed sign to the existing sign is 317 feet. If approved, the existing sign would be required to be removed before another sign was erected. So what that means is you've got the existing sign in this corner on this property, okay? The way we measure the distance from billboard sign to billboard sign is to take this and put it, act like you put it straight smack dab in the middle of the road. This is where they're proposing the new one. Act like you take it and put it smack dab in the middle of the road, and then get the distance from spots. And so the approximate distance, because I'm using, you know, lines on a GIS map, is about 317 feet. So there will not be allowed two billboards, one in the existing location and one in the proposed location based off the sign code. So, and it's just barely not allowed by about 13 feet, give or take. So, so typically that would not be allowed. So we would make sure that this one was removed, which is the plan, before this one received any permits to be built. Does that make sense? Okay. So talking about the original, or the proposed site, there's currently a 35-foot building setback within the CUP, and it also mirrors a 35-foot platted setback. So situations going on here. The CUP has set a setback of 35 feet along Ridge Road, and there's a platted
35-foot setback along Ridge Road. So the applicant is requesting to reduce the setback for the north 100 feet of this corner to 0 feet for parcel 8. Now, to complicate matters a little bit further, there's also a 10-foot easement in this corner. And so no billboard can extend past any part of that easement. So even if the 0-foot request was allowed, they would either have to vacate the easement or push that billboard past that 10-foot easement or portion. So, and that's the whole billboard. Nothing can extend over that easement. Yeah.
It's from the winter, Jesus, I was at that intersection this afternoon. There are already so many distractions at that intersection, since allowing this proposal would not necessarily reduce the number of signs in that area. Given not okaying this request, simple removal of the existing sign does not prevent re-erection of the new sign at this location. Is that correct?
Can you repeat the question?
Simple removal of the existing sign does not prevent erecting a new sign at that location. Is that correct?
Well, okay, so if this was removed and this was placed, they would not be able to place this one back because of the distance situation. So if this gets removed and this one gets erected, this one cannot come back, at least in this location. I think that this CUP does allow for other billboards along 96. So that's something that could happen, but at this location, they would have to meet those linear distance requirements, and I don't think that they can. Okay, so we were talking about the easement. The other issue, of course, is the two established setbacks. One is through the CUP and one is through a plat. So this action today, what we're doing is adjusting the CUP. So if you did approve, we're going to request that it's a 20-foot setback, and I'll get into that in a minute. But if you approve, regardless of if it's 20, 10, or 0, then they would also have to come in at another action and vacate the platted setback as well. So they know that, they understand that. That's just another action that will have to happen at another date. Does everybody understand that portion? A lot of stuff, a lot of moving parts for this. Okay. Make sure I'm in the right place. Okay, so if they want to go into that easement, then they would have to get a vacation and approval with Public Works and Utilities Department. All right, so now we're going to the sign code states that no offsite billboard sign shall be erected that would obscure the view of any other on-site sign. And that includes an offsite sign that is located on this property. I don't know if it was constructed as view, but it also is any sign that will be there's a restaurant coffee bar going in on this location. It's being developed. So any billboard sign could not obstruct the view of either of these signs. And so that is why staff is requesting at least a 20-foot setback to push it back away from the road so that other signs can be seen as well. All right, so though the exact placement of the sign is not indicated, if approved, the sign would have to adhere to the provision that it is not placed in a building setback or easement. All other siting criteria are met regarding spacing between other signs, distance from residentially zoned lots, and distance from other specified landmarks. There are no other billboard signs facing either direction of travel along this section of North Ridge Road, other than the existing billboard proposed to be relocated. It is the intent of the applicant to relocate the existing billboard to the subject site. The Wichita sign code states that no off-site billboard shall be erected closer than 300 feet from a platted residentially zoned lot on which a primary residential structure can be legally erected. And the closest such property is approximately 530 feet to the east. So we're talking about over here at Estancia. And now a multifamily development is abutting the site, but that's zoned LC. And it's within the CUPDP 250, so it's not zoned residential. The property to the east across Northridge Road is permitted to have one offsite sign on parcel 1. We're talking about this one that's already there. According to their language, and the use is already permitted in the area. So the use is already permitted in the area. We're not establishing a new use that's not there. And given the commercial context along Northridge Road, and that the sign would otherwise meet the distance requirements from the residentially zoned property, staff does not anticipate the placement of an offsite billboard to have significant detrimental effects in the area, provided it meets all the requirements of the sign code. So a little bit of context. As far as zoning, the property to the north is zoned LC and is within the CUP, currently being developed as that restaurant. The property to the west is zoned LC, is within DP 250 and is developed with multifamily dwellings. Property to the south across West 37th Street is zoned LC, is within DP 242 and is developed with a restaurant. And then properties to the east across Northridge Road are zoned LC within DP 337. With one lot developed as service parking lot and another is undeveloped other than the billboard that is currently there. A little bit of case history: on June 3rd, 2002, the property was platted as part of the Northridge Plaza addition. And on April 13th of 2000, the property was annexed into the city of Wichita. In 2001, the Northridge Plaza CUP was established. In 2024, an adjustment was approved, allowing a monument type sign on parcel 8 with a maximum height of 25. And parcel 8 is the parcel that we're talking about. And other adjustments to other parcels in the CUP. Well, the site has access to Northridge Road, which is a paved arterial street with no sidewalks. It's currently served with municipal water and sewer, and Wichita Transit does not service the location. As far as plans and policies, the proposed CUP amendment is in conformance with Community Investments Plan. The future growth concept map you can see here indicates the site is appropriate for a mix, which is defined as areas of land that likely will be developed with uses predominantly of a mixed nature. And so staff feels like the placement of a billboard at this location does not introduce a new use, as there is already an existing billboard in the vicinity, and the site is along a commercial corridor near highway access and is buffered from low density residential uses by other commercial and multifamily uses. As far as compatibility guidelines under the development pattern, under the heading development pattern, guideline 1C states that major commercial and employment centers should be located at intersections of arterial streets and commercial corridors. And then under the heading land use compatibility, guideline 1A states that higher intensity development should be discouraged from locating in areas of existing lower intensity development, particularly established low density residential areas. Staff believes that the sign could generate some light pollution. However, the distance requirements are designed to buffer lower intensity land uses from this possible negative impact. So the proposed sign would meet the distance requirements from the residential uses to the east and to the west. We can go to site pics. Yeah.
Just for my own sake to clarify, I'm looking on page 13, which is that green that's right there.
Okay.
The applicant's area is directly across the street from one of the existing billboard. The existing billboard would have to be removed because if the application is, then it is not within the by 7 or so, whatever it was. And so it's going to move. Where will they move the existing billboard?
So they're proposing to move the billboard where we're talking about.
Okay, so that all we're doing is moving the billboard from 37th and Ridge from one side of the street to the other. That's the only thing.
Essentially, the only problem is that right now the CUP does not allow that, and so that's what we're trying.
So I'll say this in all honesty, I'm just trying to put this in everyday English for myself.
Sure, and that's what I've been trying to do. Yeah, it's complicated.
Moving this billboard that directly there, and we're moving it across the street and that business complex that's there, they have a sign. but
Yes.
That sign will be removed because there'll be, or it's just, I mean, I don't know where it's
So,
gonna fit.
yeah, so,
It'll fit in
yeah.
that little area.
so there's two different kinds of signs that you can have. One is an on-site sign, which is a sign that they have that basically advertises on-site businesses. And then you have an off-site billboard sign, which advertises things that are not on-site. So you can have both if the sign code allows you to, or the CUP language allows you to. And in this case, the CUP language does not yet.
I'm just trying to visualize that large
Yep.
billboard that's on one side of the street to move it to, and how it would fit on the other side of
Yep.
the street.
And so let me take you to the pictures and I can actually kind of explain a little bit better how that's going to look. So this is inside the site looking north. Here's the coffee house that's being built. This is Ridge Road looking towards 96. And so what they're doing is proposing to build the billboard in this area, roughly right around here. These parking spaces are part of their property, and so they're looking at doing it in this, just to the right of those.
It's not really directly across the street, it's across the street and back.
Across the street and north. Yeah. Yep.
Got it.
So, and then I'll just kind of skip. I mean, this is looking into the site. This is looking at the apartments to the west. This is looking east across, and then this is the other billboard that is there. And so it's actually not a full billboard. I don't know if it meets the definition of what we call a junior billboard or not, but it's not like one you might see on an interstate situation. It's a little bit smaller. And so they are proposing to move this, relocate this one. I don't know if it will be the actual same one or not, but take this one down and build at this location right here.
And all that makes sense to me. I just had a hard time visualizing how it's gonna
Understood.
go across the street with what
Yep.
was already there.
No, it is, like I said, very complicated and I had to learn a lot on this case. And then so just to kind of keep going through, I think we just have one. Well, this is looking south. This is 37th and some of the other businesses that are in that strip mall. So I will say we have received 3 public comment. I apologize. We do not have those in your packet. We get them the way things work with timing. We have to get you guys the packet before we get those public comments. Do is remember to forward those to Teresa so that she can disperse those. And I apologize, I didn't do that. Oh, you did? You got them. Okay, good deal. Perfect. Yep. Yes, sir.
I had a question on one of those.
Yeah.
Looks like she emailed you, Reese Taylor.
Yep.
I'm assuming that this is not true because we're still here talking about it, but she said that the billboard would have to be approved by respective landowners. By their, rated by their shares.
Yeah. If any private restrictions in that CUP, yeah, that is not something that the city gets into. So they would have to figure that out with the billboard company and the other owners of the property if there are private restrictions. I don't know. Quite frankly, we don't really care. We care about the CUP and the zoning, and that goes really for any kind of private restrictions or anything like that. So if there are something that she talks about that are out there, then they'll have to figure that out. They can get approved on our end, but if they can't figure out the legal restriction situation, then they just wouldn't be able to do it. So approval on our end doesn't mean they can just do it 100%. They still have to figure out some of those legal situations. Yep. Staff does recommend the amendment be approved. One minor detail or major, depending on how you look at it, is that the recommended language did not include the setback situation. And so we would recommend that any approval that you might make, if you do decide to go that way, would include a 20-foot setback for that north 100-foot corner. So that it can be set back and not block any any other signs on any other property. So with that, I can stand for any other questions.
Just to be clear, you're saying, though it's not noted in the packet, you're basically verbally adding another condition.
Correct.
Off the staff recommendation.
Yeah, and let me just explain too what MAPC did. They just heard this last Thursday. They did recommend approval with that 20-foot setback. They are going to oh, I thought somebody was yelling at me. I'm used to people yelling at me. But no, I'll let this go through. So the other things that they did at MAPC and the applicant, they did remove condition number 3 from the suggested conditions, and actually staff really doesn't have a problem with that because it kind of talks about those private covenants and restrictions, but those things are there. So so if some of those things are in place, again, they'll have to deal with that on their end. And then the other thing was at that meeting, they were provided, the applicant provided some of what the billboard might look like. I actually didn't see that. I need to get a copy from them, but the MAPC made a condition that the architectural design that was provided be stuck to, basically, with end caps. So the sign is going to be kind of a V shape, apparently, with the interior or the exterior looking at the streets, and the open part of the V facing west towards the business and the multifamily apartments. So they're gonna have, I don't know how this looks, I'm not a billboard guy, but they'll have to have some sort of end cap so that it kind of blocks some of the view from the business and from the multi family to the west. So that's what the MAPC recommended. Just so you know, if you guys and MAPC recommend the same thing and there are no protests, then it can be consent. If you differ at all, or if there's any protests, then it's non-consent. So just something to think about. And if you need, and I don't know if there will be protests. I can imagine there might be. But if you want to vote the same way that MAPC did and you need clarification, just let me know and I can walk you through that. Any other questions?
Thank you, Brad. That's super thorough. I think what we'll do as a functional process, we'll afford the applicant agent opportunity to address the board. We'll then take it, we'll open it up to public comment, and then ultimately bring the discussion back to the dad. So with that, gentlemen, if you'd like to address the board.
I'm gonna pass up the rendering, start over here, just get passed around, see what we.
Good evening, Phil Meyer with Boffman Company, agent for the applicant. With me here tonight from Lamar Advertising is Adrian Sanders, who's passing out the pictures. Adrian and I are going to do a tag team presentation to you tonight. We also have Austin Martin in the back there with the Lamar. I know it's been a long night. I'm going to try to be brief. Brad is absolutely right. Sign code is complicated. When you get into billboards, it's even worse. And it's been that way. I've been doing this for way too long and it's still confusing. So if I can, this is the best picture for me to talk from on this. And some of this is going to be redundant, but I want to make it as simple as I can. There's an existing billboard right here that is allowed within the CUP. It is leased by Lamar Advertising, owned by Lamar Advertising, or leased by Lamar, owned by the developer of the ground. We're going to take this billboard down. We're going to put the second one, or a replacement one up here, not a second one. In doing that, there's a separation issue that's going to go on. And part of the reason, if you looked at the original staff recommendations, Number three asked us to go across the street and get the landowner over here to agree to us putting the billboard over here. And look at your letters of opposition, you're gonna find that I have a landowner that owns the property over here opposed to the billboard built over. And it's an unnecessary requirement because with the separation, as Brad showed you, if you take where we're putting the billboard, you extend it to the center line, you take the existing one, extend it, it's 317 feet. If we go from the south property line, as far south as you could possibly go, to the north property line here, as far north as we could possibly put, separation is 325 feet. I gotta have 330 feet. So asking me to go get a signature on a piece of property when there's no way I could get another one across on, I can't get one on each side of the street is my point. So with that, we're going to ask you to remove item number 3 from the recommendations. We are okay with the increased setback to 20 foot that staff recommended. I filed it for 0. I knew there was an easement along the site, but 0 is easiest for me. Then we're going to figure out where we put the site and how much I vacate. They've already said they can live with 20. So we knew we had to do a vacation case. We haven't filed that vacation case because I'm just spending the client's money going through the process. First, we got to find out, can we build the billboard here? So the CUP and zoning is always the first step. So we had 3 opposition letters opposed to us doing this billboard. The first one came from the apartment complex. Sharice Taylor wrote the letter. Paul Jackson is the developer of both apartment complexes that are up there. Worried about light pollution. And my comment to the DAB, and same thing we told Planning Commission, this is a 2-sided billboard that's going to be a V shape facing Ridge Road, the V is. So our lights are going east. They're going northeast and southeast, they're going west. And further, the Planning Commission asked us on the back of that V, so if this is our V, on the back side, that we put a plate up there so the apartment complex can be the interior structure board. And that's the way it's approved. We agreed to that, and that's the way it was approved. So I know there's a concern from the apartment complex, but we don't feel like what we're doing has a negative impact on them. Second, and I think Adrian passed these out to you. This shows the distance from where we're proposing our billboard to where the Wendy sign is. That's the second concern that we got, was the Wendy sign. And you'll notice the little white box down here is going to tell you it's 500 feet from our billboard to their Wendy sign. Typically 300 foot is the distance where you start picking up all the language on the sign. At 500 feet, we're not blocking that sign. By the time you get parallel, the billboard is directly to your right, you're still 500 foot away from Wendy. So we honestly don't feel like we have a negative impact on their sign. They did talk about not being able to put their billboard as close to the road as they want it. That's because their billboard is sitting up against that the utility easement. Same thing we're going to have is, they wanted to be 10 foot closer to the road, but they had a utility easement. And you cannot put this foundation inside a utility easement. The last opposition was from the developer of Estancia. With that, I don't know how long this billboard has been here. I think it was there prior to the owner of Estancia doing that development. But when they did that development, they were allowed to keep a billboard here. They were allowed to put 2 more billboards up along K96. That plat was recorded in 2015. So that billboard's been there for a while. We are moving because they are telling Lamar to take it down. They don't want them on that corner anymore. So that's why we're going across the street, but it has been there for the last 10 years. At that, I am going to let Adrian come up and talk to you. There's some special features to particular billboard. I'm gonna let him come up and present what they're proposing with this billboard. And then we're both gonna stand to answer any questions you may have.
Just to name's Adrian Sanders. I recently took the position of real estate manager with Lamar here. And just to continue the redundancies, we are gonna have the V shape, which we did to sort of avail the apartment complex of their concerns of light pollution. We had a situation we got by city council. We had to contest the same issue of pollution. And what we found that streetlights actually cause more light pollution than the actual board. We ended up getting approved for that sign as well. We've got a construction design that we wanted to keep in the spirit of that development area. So if you see on the close-up form and even the approach form, you'll see the Avante signage, and it kind of has the sloped top. We wanted to keep in line with that, just so they, understand we didn't want to just, and we wanted to really take into consideration any issues they may have. And like you said, we're planning, they requested or asked that we cover that backside up. I'm not sure why, but I guess just to, so it's not distracting to the neighbors in the apartments or maybe the businesses. So there won't be any issue on the backside either. And like you said, the 300 feet is typically what we consider really good visibility in the billboard industry, where you really start to see a sign and you can understand what's being promoted. You see that picture of Wendy's, which is their concern that we would block them and that they had to adhere to a 35-foot setback. There's no obstruction to the Wendy's sign either. The good thing about this, this particular sign has had locally 119 unique advertisers. So there's a desire to really have this sign here locally, a real drive, because of the traffic and the increased traffic and development.
So we'll close and answer your questions. Planning Commission did require us, asked us if we would, and required us in their motion that we construct a billboard with these same architectural features. So that's going to be included in Planning Commission.
Just to clarify that size situation, I know that typically when people hear billboard, they're thinking of the humongous 14 by 48. This is actually a 12 by 24. It's considered like a poster size. So if you've seen any of our poster units, it's much smaller than what a typical billboard or the large ones consist of.
Thank you, gentlemen. Before we open up for public comment, if there are any, I think we got a few questions for clarification from up here.
I really have a hard time understanding why we're hearing this today, because it sounds clear that for the development agreement, we're not going to approve the sign. So I mean, we can go through the approval with conditions and whatever, but like the developer is still gonna tell them no.
I don't know that I understand your comment. I don't know that that's a true statement. I do know that the developer won't allow, the development agreement won't allow that sign.
So you're okay.
I do know Cherie's comment. I'm not disagreeing with that, but I don't know that
If the language.
I think that can be worked through. So the safeguard is, and this always run, that's a private issue. But this is the zoning. The first step in every development is we got to go do the zoning first. And then if we get the zoning and they can't work out the private easement, they're not going to be able to do the billboard. If they get the zoning and we don't go through the vacation process, they don't get the billboard. So those are additional steps. But I don't know that. I think they're going to work that out. And I don't know that that billboard is prevented in the developer's agreement. But that's what the landowners have to work out amongst themselves.
Great clarification. I think there's two hurdles. Hurdle number one is public policy, then we'll get past that hurdle first, and then they'll deal with the private part of it. Should it get to that?
Well, I second that point, and I also vibe with that opinion, because our role and responsibility as a citizen to provide support is through the citizenry and the community, right? And so if there is a private agreement, but there are citizens in the community that for whatever reason, they don't want something to be erected, and there is some type of covenant. One of the things to me in terms of rules and responsibility of limited government is for government not to jump into and potentially set up a Hatfield and McCoy situations where, you know, if there is an agreement and those folks don't want it, but then government comes back and says, well, we agree with it. Now you're kind of setting up a showdown. So I kind of get to the emphasis of, you know, could that have been worked out before that was brought here, as opposed to this board saying, I want to do it, we agree with it, and then it goes back to the community, and now it's contentious with the community as to why we're all here.
We're not trying to put you in that position. So I'm not sure how to answer that, other than there's different opinions on what the covenants allow and don't allow. And we think the billboard is allowed today. They may not think it's allowed today, and we're going to have to resolve that at some point. Now, if we don't have the zoning, how do we go through resolving that issue? So again, there will be communication between the landowners, and I understand your concern, but we got to tackle this. When you look at all the issues, the first one you got to tackle is, can we get the zoning to do it? And that's what we're doing.
Billboard north could push up, or Wendy's or somebody else put a billboard on their corner. They'd be over 300 some feet.
Not without coming through this process. So the entire, and you go up to Quick Trip is the north end of this CUP. Quick Trip's not in this CUP. Okay.
Quick Shop.
Quick Shop.
Right here.
Yeah.
South there. Maybe it's a question for Brad.
Yeah.
They would.
A little quick, yeah, no problem. So again, I honestly, I don't know for sure, but I would assume that this is also within a CUP. Yeah, so all four corners are within CUPs, and so without having studied the language of that CUP, my guess is that they don't have and they would have to also amend in order to have one. But if they do have billboards allowed in that CUP, then they would be able to, because of the distance being met. So again, maybe a bad thing to do, but my guess is that they don't have billboards allowed in this CUP. Yeah, but if they do, then they would be allowed.
Go ahead, Sean.
I think there's maybe more than one reason why we're hearing this case. But if it was currently at 37th grade now, would we still be hearing something about this?
Yes, because it's not allowed in the CUP as the language sits today. So in order to be allowed to have a billboard on the site, the CUP language has to be amended to allow billboards on the site.
Okay.
So
at first we were talking about, we're going to take that billboard down so we can put that up.
Exactly.
Then it sounds like from what he said earlier that billboard may be coming down anyway.
Well, so that is the intent. The owner of this land, Estancia, is planning on removing this billboard, and Lamar wants to erect that billboard in this location. So if they do not remove that billboard, then this cannot happen, even if it's allowed in the CUP, because of the distance requirement. If we go through all of this and And we allow it and everything, but this doesn't get moved, no dice. If we go through all of this and there's no vacation that happens, no dice. If we go through all of this and they can't work out whatever protective covenants that might be, no dice. And so we really are kind of the first hurdle. And there's 3 other safeguards essentially that would keep it from happening if those things don't fall in line, those dominoes don't fall as well. So again, I can understand a local district advisory boards where they're taking in citizens, thoughts and concerns. But as a city department, we really don't. We just kind of look at it from the zoning and the planning portion of it. So, I mean, we do care. I'm not saying we don't care how people feel, but as far as private covenants go, it's another legal document that it does not pertain to.
You have a legal system that take it out that way. But
I wanted to circle back if possible. Just because I know sometimes we can say all the jargon of the separation of the two process, but they're desiring what they want, to your point, and you don't want to position yourself in the middle of that. The problem is that one of those contestations you have is from the current lessor that we have. So current lessor. So our sign is on his property and they've enjoyed rent for the past decade. And now they're contesting that. So that's sort of a juxtaposition within themselves.
So if they were gonna tear down the sign anyway, then they were gonna be losing that rent anyway.
Well, they want to develop that corner, and that's why they want to remove the sign. So just to clarify that, I mean, it was good at one point, and now because of their desire to develop it, it's seen as not so good.
But with the composition of that sign where it is right now, the owner of that property wants to move that sign, wants to tear it down. And if you are not able to move it to the location in which you desire, that sign then just therefore gets tore down and you don't have signage. Is that a fair assessment?
Does this have the ability at any time of being a digital display, or is it restricted to the older paper style bill?
Yeah, I don't think that the sign code differentiates between, there are certain standards for digital signs that they can, only change their basically their signage every 3 or 4 or 5 seconds. I want to say it's 3 seconds, but it could be as much as 5 seconds. So it has to be a static image for a certain amount of time. Can't be like animation. You can't have stuff like that. And so there are some things that are in the sign code that kind of regulate some of those things. But I believe the current sign is a digital billboard, and so I'm guessing that it would also be a digital.
They usually rotate every 6 seconds.
Something like that. Yeah.
That's right. Thanks, Brad. I had failed to get to public comment before bringing the concluded discussion back to the board. Is there anybody in our audience this evening that would like to come speak on this item? Or do you? Yes, sir. Come on up if you wouldn't mind stating your name, your address, and we'll have 3 minutes to share with us. Whatever you
Yeah, Jesse Schoenberg, Schoenberg Development Company, almost went blank, 2837. That's Matt. SCHELLENBERG. And yes, we had bought this probably 10, 12 years ago. And right when we had first bought it, we knew we were going to develop it. We have the residential. Yes. This piece of property that we have currently a lease with the sign company. And so we had plans always to do some commercial and residential. One of the things that we thought this was, okay, how do we get rid of the sign? And I mean, typically in CUPs, you put things in there that you don't want because they look bad. Satellites, billboards, and we couldn't remove this because of the existing lease, which is coming up. And so my guess, I guess, kind of alluding to your question, if this billboard was there or wasn't there, my guess is it was, I could be assuming we wanted to get rid of it. They needed to go find another place for it. And so, again, when we bought this, the corridor, there wasn't a whole lot on the west side of the street. So we wanted to make it good. All of our stuff in Estancia Plaza, the buildings look good. We have higher ACC control requirements on how the buildings look. And like I said, this was one of the first things that we looked at was how do we get rid of this billboard? Just because really of how it looks, the money for the lease and some of that, but again, they don't look good.
You own the Estancia plot there?
Yeah,
where the
correct.
Sign currently
Yeah.
exists.
Mhm.
Okay, sorry, I thought you were on the.
No,
side.
we developed that whole northeast corner there. And so I viewed it as we have an opportunity to keep this corridor looking clean. It could be a snowball effect in our developments and stuff. We look at things, okay, if you allow one thing, well, what's going to happen? Someone's going to want a billboard somewhere else. Then you're going to have billboards along Ridge Road. And again, CUPs are there to prevent things like this happening. So I think we have an opportunity to keep this. It could look better and prevent just billboards and signs being all along Ridge Road.
So you are an opponent.
I'm
of putting-
opposed of it. Yep.
Okay. Clears, got it.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Any other members with us? I would like to address the board on the side. Okay, with that, we'll bring discussion back to the board.
I've got a question generally, so, yeah. So if to not go with a 20-foot setback, they want the 0-foot. There's still the issue of the easement. Even if there was a 0-foot setback, they can't have any portion of the billboard over that easement. Is that correct?
Correct. So that's why we're recommending that as well as keeping it from blocking, it pushes you away from that easement as well. From what I heard from them, they're fine with that 20-foot setback that we recommend. So the only other action they would have to take is the vacation of the 35-foot platted setback to reduce it 15 feet to get it to 20.
Just a general comment too. I also took just for you guys, I also took it similar to how Lamont and Rachel were saying with the utilizing our decision instead of going like getting the private discussion kind of fixed up before coming here. I took it that way as well. I understand both viewpoints, but I don't want our decisions to influence conversations with private landowners. Basically what we're getting at.
They recommended action in the pamphlet, or we can obviously entertain a motion of another kind.
Can we vote to not vote on it? I don't know. I mean.
You need to vote on. Yeah, we take action on the motion as presented. All together different.
That's a question. So. If I understand this correctly, we're giving them the opportunity to say, yes, it's approved by us, but it still has to be approved by the landowner. It still has to have that approval. We're just giving them okay, it's legally, it can be done.
Right.
It legally can be done. Doesn't mean it's gonna get done, because if you guys don't agree with each other, then it's not gonna happen. But we're giving that it's legally an avenue that you can pursue. If you don't want to pursue it, or they fight and do whatever they do, it just simply says that we voted down, they have no avenue to be able to go. They have no way to work it out. They have to wait so many months or whatever they come back here. We're just giving them approval to try to work through it. If they can't work through it, then it doesn't pass. It doesn't happen.
In a non-binding capacity.
We're just giving JP direction. Give them approval or non-approval.
True, but that happens in any issue that we have. Any neighborhood that comes here and says, last month, we had the group on the other side of 37th Street who said, hey, we don't want this to happen over here. And we looked for a compromise or whatever that might happen. We had it on Maple. We were at Maple and Ridge Road. And there was and we again had a vote. We made a decision that, yes, I think we need to go this direction. I don't see this as different from any other vote that we've taken.
Very conceptually, we're at the core, we're addressing, if there is a policy that prohibits them from doing what they want to do. Do we want to amend said policy, in this case, a conditional use permit, to allow it at that point? If it does go to council and gets approved, then they would proceed with the impasse with the contract and the covenant. And if they can get that figured out, good for parties. If they can't, then somebody could file a injunction and take it to a court and leave contract law to first hands.
And the big issues happen this way.
Okay. No, yeah, if they made the effort to attend, I think you should hear it. Sure, yeah.
The comment is, I agree with Jesse Schellenberg that we don't want billboards on Ridge Road. And now it sounds from what I can hear that the sign would be digital, so I recommend you do not approve this request. Keep the signage only for the businesses existing on that property, not billboards for things out of the area.
Something else, just to keep. First of all, legally, as far as the city is concerned, so there are other legal issues, but as far as the city is concerned, that it would be legally allowing them through that avenue. There is nothing stopping from the owner of the current property keeping that there or building another one in the future. So.
Brad, could you say just a little bit more about the planning commission's recommendation to remove number 3 and the implications of that, like in layman terms as you can, by removing that condition, it affords what?
So by removing condition 3, basically, let me get to it so that I can. Because the private covenants that exist either among the properties that are within the CUP or a covenant with the current landowner of the existing billboard, it's kind of a moot point because of the requirements of distance. So again, if they remove that, condition 3 is basically saying that they won't allow another billboard in the future, because they could, according to the CUP. But essentially it's a moot point because they can't if this one gets removed and then this one gets built because of the distance requirements. So a little bit of a moot point. And it was an attempt by the planning director and the zoning administrator to just have a little bit more redundancy about not having a billboard there, but the sign code would not allow it. So it was a little redundant. So therefore, the planning director even said no real heartburn on removing that.
I have another question for you. Do you guys, I know this isn't in this, but do you guys plan to use similar advertisements on the current billboard? My point is, I actually do notice that they are more local advertisements. I know this shows McDonald's, but there are a lot of local advertisements on that board. I do appreciate that.
Yeah.
And so I just want.
I mean, I spoke to, well, we do have 119 local unique advertisers on there. We do national. We don't discriminate against that. But yeah, there's a lot of local businesses that want this and they utilize this as their conduit, where TV is too high, not enough people listen to radio, and people do get out of their house. So they like to use this as their avenue to promote their business and drive revenue. So yeah.
Well, my own question for the favor of redundancy. You lose that sign there because our property is no longer not there. Say you don't get the zoning, that sign just goes away. You lose opportunities for revenue dollars and things that. Your best shot to do that, to generate revenue and leads to that avenue. Because that sign's coming out, regardless of, is to pursue how to work out through the applicable channels to try to come to some type of agreement. Or you're just, I don't have opportunity regardless of. Is that a fair assessment?
That's correct. And when you think of 119 advertisers, I mean, a good amount of revenue. Yeah.
You're looking for a place, you're really looking at 37th Street because that's 37th and Ridge, because that's the area that's really popping right now.
Well, we were already there.
I mean, to move, you're
Correct.
you're
Yes,
not
ma'am.
gonna have that location where it
Yes.
is. So you're trying to stay in that generally in that same area because that traffic is high
That's correct.
and continues to increase.
Yes, absolutely.
This is effectively your next best option. Right. From, you could say you would, but you're getting sort of booted, so this is an option number 2.
That's correct. Yes.
And you're
We are upgrading that sign, so yes, it would fall in line with what's there now, so it wouldn't stick out as a sore thumb.
looking for motion. Conversation.
What was the recommendation of the setback requirement?
Sure. Yeah, so the MAPC, they recommended a few things. It's first staff recommendation, but also removing condition number 3. And then also keeping the architectural design that's been placed in front of you. Adding an end cap to that open V of the billboard, and then allowing no more than a 20-foot setback.
I have no issue with adopting the recommendation that has been put forth by the other governing organization. I do support citizen and business rights. I hope that whatever the direction is, I hope that with community, but I also think that it is, from my view, I'm not speaking from any other perspective, but I also think that it is fair from my perspective to give you guys an opportunity to pursue the loss of with you being moved out, and that is to no choice of your own. So that would be my recommendation to accept. With the MAPC.
Yeah, you can say per the MAPC recommendation.
MAPC recommendation.
Without the 20-foot.
That would be part of the 20-foot.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a motion on the floor effectively to emulate the recommendation of the Metro Area Planning Commission with the conditions noted for Brad and in the packet. Is there a second?
I'll second.
There's a second. Any further discussion before we take it? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Got 2 nays. 2 nays, 4 yeas, and then we got to check. Okay, sure. We will vote once more. This time I'll ask you to put your hand in the air. All those in favor, hands up. 6. All those opposed, same sign. And then if you would mind checking it. Okay, all right.
Okay.
Final vote tally vote 6-2.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate your patience and your time.
That adjourns tonight. We will see you next month. Same bat time, same bat channel. Appreciate you, everyone. Thank you for your engagement.
Jesse, how are you? Out of your box, man. I will. It's far from over. Sure you. Yeah.